Welcome to the Stronger Than Steel podcast with your host, Austin Davidson and John Keir, talking Steelers all the time. Now, here's Austin and John.
Hello, and welcome back to the Stronger Than Steel podcast. My name is John Keir, and joining me as always is my co-host, Austin Davidson.
Heyo.
It's Season 3, Episode 28, August 21st, 2018. The Pittsburgh Steelers are halfway through their preseason slate, and boy, that game against the Packers was not pretty, Austin, wasn't it?
No, it's not a pretty game. The defense still can't tackle. Even some of the starters struggled in it. The quarterback play wasn't very good in it, and James Washington should quarterback play wasn't very good.
A 51-34 loss, in which, by the way, the Steelers gave up a team record for points against in the preseason, breaking the former record of 50, which they gave up against the Bears in 1987. That's where I was getting the 80 from. 50 points against the Bears in 87 and 51 last Thursday to the Packers. There were some small positives to take away, but my biggest takeaways from this game were that this game showed that there shouldn't be any remaining doubt that Landry Jones is the backup quarterback to Ben Roethlisberger. Mason Rudolph and Josh Dobbs are just not ready to step in for any extended period of time right now. The defense obviously has displayed some concerning trends the last few weeks, and it's clear that they've got a long way to go if they want to get better, which they're going to need to be if the Steelers want to make a serious run at the Super Bowl. And last but not least, the James brothers, James Conner and James Washington, were both very good on Thursday. Conner might have vaulted himself into the conversation to be one of the, if not the leading man next year when Lev Bell leaves for another team. And James Washington is clearly the third best receiver on this team now, although we kind of figured that now we have visual proof. So just a quick look at the injury report. Only one, notable injury, which I guess all things considered through 2 weeks, that could be the biggest victory of all for the Steelers. With all the bad that's gone on with the defense, one positive is that there haven't really been any major injuries to speak of so far, knock on wood. But Xavier Grimble, the backup tight end, did have a hand, or I thought it was wrist, but I guess it's a hand injury, and he did have surgery on it. He said he believes he's going to be ready for week 1. We'll see about that. GM Kevin Colbert also said that both him and Vance McDonald, he expects both of them to be able to be ready for the season opener, but Mike Tomlin also said he doesn't have a plan at tight end right now because he's missing 2 guys. So we're getting a little bit of mixed messages there. What do you make of that?
I feel like they're not on the same page, and that's a little bit worrying. I feel like they should be on the same page, going with hand in hand, the GM with the head coach. But I guess they just got to listen to what Colbert says and just think that they're both going to be that their injuries are not going to linger into the regular season, and just they're going to be ready for week 1. I guess.
I'll believe it when I see it. Let's put it that way. All right, so Austin, Mason Rudolph gets his first NFL start. Yes, it's a preseason game, but he starts the game. No Landry Jones, and immediately a pick 6. And it just all went downhill from there. But I guess let's turn to the offense right now. How did they perform? They did put up 34 points at the end of the day, but probably not the best day for the offense.
Yeah, starting with the quarterbacks, as you said, Mason Rudolph on his first throw through a pick 6. Also, Josh Dobbs on his first throw through a pick 6, which honestly sucks. We can blame the defense for this loss all we want, but not giving up those pick 6s would have made the game a hell of a lot closer, would have made the final score 37-34. Not that that's fantastic of the defense either, but I'll get to that later. One quarterback recovered from the mistake, and the other didn't. The one that didn't was Mason Rudolph. Throwing that pick 6 destroyed his confidence for the game or something, because he just didn't look comfortable out there. He ended up throwing for only 4 yards at a completion percentage of 41.7%, and fumbled again, even though it was recovered by the Steelers. But what did look good was his touchdown throw. He put it up high right where Juju could get it, and none of the surrounding defenders did. So I give him props for that, but he still did not look good out there. Definitely struggled. Dobbs definitely had a better day in my mind, and on paper actually had a great day, but he was really just average. He could have had a much worse day if it wasn't for James Washington. Without a doubt in my mind, that second touchdown, both those touchdowns Washington hauled in were not good thrown balls, and they should have been intercepted, but Washington just outplayed his man and helped aid Dobbs' stats. Still, though, Dobbs showed confidence in his throws and had trust in his receivers, which I wanted to see more out of Rudolph, especially since Rudolph would have been connecting with Washington, but Dobbs was not afraid to let it fly down the field after the pick six, and even connected with Washington for a nice 54-yard pass. He finished with a 66.7 completion percentage and threw for nearly 200 yards and ran for a 2-point conversion. So stat-wise, he had a fantastic day. But again, I really think Washington helped him not add an interception to his stat sheet. And that pick six really hurt how I viewed his performance. Without that, he would have had a fantastic day, even with Washington making him look good. But speaking of Washington, though, he had a fantastic day with his 5 catches for 114 yards and 2 touchdowns. Washington is just a contested catch machine, and in my head, has to be the number 3 wide receiver right now. There's no one in my mind that's better than him. I have not seen anything better, and I swear, if Justin Hunter is somehow the number 3 wide receiver, I am going to throw a fit. But I just don't know who else would take the spot, to be honest with you. He's just so good on the contested catch, and that's something the Steelers didn't have in Martavis Bryant at all. I mean, maybe you're sacrificing speed for the contested catch ability, but I'll take it. I'll take it any day. More catches, more stats is better than just being able to outrun your man. But as for the other receivers, Damone Patterson, Trey Griffey, and Justin Hunter had some pretty nice clutch catches. Patterson was a 29-yard gain. Griffey's was a solid 12-yard gain. And on Hunter's sole target of the game, he got a 19-yard gain. All were pretty clutch. After them, though, I was pretty disappointed in Darius Hayward-Bay. I feel like this has been what I've been saying for the past 2 preseason games, but he was only targeted once and he got no receptions. Tevin Jones didn't catch his sole target, and Marcus Tucker disappointed me a little too, as he was targeted twice and didn't have a catch in this one. But moving along to tight ends, it was rough. Bucky Hodges showed some great things as a blocker, which may be useful if Grimble won't be ready week 1, even though he says he's going to be ready week 1. And Jesse James and Farrell McCaver had a solid 21-yard gain and 10-yard gain respectively, but that was really it. This group is just rough. That's the best way to describe it. And the Steelers are banging on a guy that is always injured, which sucks. As for the offensive line, they had a solid day. They started out poorly in the first half, but got better as time went on, going from 3 sacks given up in the first half to 0 in the second, and only 5 tackles for a loss in this game. But that leaves the position of running backs. The running backs all did above average in this one. James Conner, again, looked great, running for a long touchdown and several other explosive plays on his 5 carries. He really looks like he could be the Steelers' premier back next year, which would be interesting. Just thinking about that, if James Conner somehow becomes a premier back and just turns out to be good or just above average, we're going to be talking about this draft class for running backs for a long time. When you think of all the people that came out of it, with Alvin Kamara, Christian McCaffrey, Leonard Fournette, Kareem Hunt, and then James Conner. This would be, if he could turn out really well in next year, if he's the premier back, it would be an insane draft class for running backs. But that was a tangent. But Samuels, moving on to the next running back, Samuels definitely had a bounce back game, averaging 4.2 yards to carry on 9 carries, and also caught 3 of his 4 targets for 13 yards. And finally, Fitz was solid out there too, really shining in pass protection, but he also got 26 yards on 7 carries, so not bad for him. What did you see from the offense in this game?
Well, I saw a lot of what you saw, and I guess I'm going through my notes again. I went back and watched the game a second time. Let's talk about that first play. Actually, let's talk about the first play for both quarterbacks. I don't know what that play is called with the simple curl route for the receiver on the left side of the sideline, but that play needs to be thrown out of the playbook because it doesn't work, at least not with these guys. Look, Rudolph stared down his receiver, so did Dobbs, and I don't know who had the pick six on the second play, but Tramon Williams, a veteran NFL cornerback, saw that and made an easy break on it. So welcome to the NFL, Mason Rudolph. And I will say that was DHB's only target of the game, I believe. And he did absolutely nothing to help. He didn't come back to the football at all. So just bang on to your point about DHB not getting many targets or not being much of a factor as a receiver. I wonder if that play axed some of his playing time possibly. There were times I felt like Rudolph wasn't all that phased, but I think he just wasn't comfortable in general for the whole game. I mean, it definitely got worse later on, and his final stat line shows that he just didn't play very well. I don't know if you remember some of the plays, but especially later on when the first offensive line unit was replaced by the second, he just, I don't know, he was holding on to the ball too long. He had a delay of game penalty. He was staring down receivers, and even on his touchdown, look, I know I'm not going to bash the guy too hard because he did a great job, and I'm not going to rip on a guy for throwing a touchdown pass. But sometimes you got to be careful when you're staring down receivers in the end zone, especially then. You got to be quick and decisive because it can be intercepted, and you can't afford to throw an interception in the end zone there. But I'm not going to knock him too hard because, again, it's okay to stare down a receiver if you get it through, and he did. So, also, Juju is still lit, so 2 targets and 2 touchdowns this preseason for him. Reports of his demise have been greatly exaggerated. What else? A couple other guys, Marquise Pouncey and Ramon Foster were out. I feel like the offensive line with Matt Filer and B.J. Finney did a terrific job run blocking on that one drive with James Conner. It was a 3-play drive. Conner had runs of 8, 24, and 26 yards on the way to the end zone, especially Villanueva, who looked fantastic in run blocking on those several plays. It was textbook classic Steelers football all the way down the field. So that was good to see. James Conner ran hard. He was very effective. I'll ask you a question about him in a moment. You touched on Fitzgerald Toussaint, great in pass protection, solid on the ground, surprisingly elusive. So another good day for him. All right, so back to Conner. I was thinking about this. What percentage would you put it that he is the number 1 running back starting week 1 in 2019?
I'm going to say 70%. And it's not even like I'm scared that a guy is going to get drafted. That 30% is more like, okay, maybe the Steelers have one last shot at Le'Veon Bell. But because I think they believe in Conner. I think Conner has shown that now, hey, he could take the reins with what he's shown in this preseason. I mean, it'll mostly rely on next preseason, but I feel like the Steelers don't need to draft a running back high this next season. I feel like they could just draft lower in the lower rounds, get maybe a pass blocking guy just to add to their crowds and stuff. And I think that leaves me a 70% chance that James Conner is the starting running back at the beginning of next year. What do you think?
I don't know. I think I want to say yeah, but I still want to see a little more. If they draft a running back, all right, so before this game, did you think the Steelers were going to take a running back in the first 3 rounds next year?
Next year, no. I don't think that the Steelers are going to take one in the first 3 rounds next year.
All right, you think if they do take one, it's going to be kind of like a Jalen Samuels middle to late rounds pick?
Exactly. I think it's going to be a guy that's specializes in one thing. Maybe it's just he can pass block really well, or maybe he has good hands. Someone to add to a running back committee.
Yeah, because if Connor's the starting running back, he's playing, 70, 75% of the snaps? He's not going 90, 95 like we're used to seeing with Bell, right?
Oh, yeah, no way. I don't think Connor's that type of back, but I still think he could be a starter.
Yeah, I agree. I'll be interested to see how that works out. It'll also be interesting to see how many running backs they keep. Stephen Ridley could be the top backup next year if no one else is drafted. He did not play on Thursday as he had a groin injury. Elsewhere, Rudolph, again, he missed on a couple of throws. The 4th and 6, Matt Filer got beat pretty badly on that play and forced an early throw to, I believe, James Washington, but it would have been well short of the first down anyways. That was the only major bug I saw on the starting offensive line unit. I already mentioned the second team was not very good as far as pass protection goes. I already talked about Rudolph. He's got to get rid of the ball faster. What else? On Josh Dobbs' pick six, look, just the same as Rudolph's, just a bad play, staring down the receiver. That's not great. Jalen Samuels picked up his first touchdown. He was pretty solid. James Washington, I will say this. I think Josh Dobbs played pretty well. I'm not sure if I'm going to say it's better than how he played last week, but I will say we would be saying, let's be honest, we'd be saying Josh Dobbs, we'd be calling for him to get cut if those two passes were intercepted instead of touchdowns, right?
I think so. I think that's how most people would react, yeah.
Because then you're looking at 3 interceptions and no touchdowns, and that makes 4. That would have made 4 in the preseason. So look, I'm not going to say Josh Dobbs is just. I mean, we all know that he's probably going to be cut anyways, or at least sent to the practice squad. But I wanted to make the point that Washington had a fantastic game, and Dobbs didn't play terribly, but he did get bailed out a couple of times. But that's also not the worst thing in the world. Sometimes it's about throwing the ball up and letting your receiver make a play. What else? Look, James Washington is plenty fast. You talked about Martavis Bryant. I also wanted to mention a bunch of other guys, like Sammy Coates. We talked about Martavis Bryant, Mike Wallace. Those guys were all speedsters, and if they caught the ball behind the defense, they were gone, yeah. But did any of them go up and really contest catches a lot? Not really, and that's something that Washington does. Even though he's not a measurables guy, neither was Juju Smith-Schuster last season, and he turned out to be really good. I'm not saying that he's going to have that kind of a season, but I think he's going to be another great pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yeah, that pretty much covers it for the offense. Look, they put up 34 points. The pick sixes really hurt. Josh Dobbs was definitely a better quarterback than Mason Rudolph was in this game. But the other thing to consider is that he's been in the offense for another year. I'm willing to bet you. There's no way you could tell me that Mason Rudolph is not as talented as Josh Dobbs is as far as natural gifts as a quarterback or as far as ability as a quarterback. Dobbs has been in the system, so he knows what he's seeing a little bit more than Rudolph. That's how I saw it. Is that how you saw it?
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, the Steelers gave him a first-round grade. Josh Dobbs did not have a first-round grade on, so there's that. It should just, with development, Mason Rudolph should end up as the better quarterback. Like, same time next year, Mason Rudolph should be probably performing better than Dobbs is doing right now.
So I was thinking about the quarterback position. I heard some things on sports radio out in Pittsburgh. All right. Ideal situation this year, Roethlisberger's the starter, Jones is the backup, Rudolph is the number 3, and Dobbs is the practice squad guy, right?
Yeah, that should be ideal.
Say you get through this year, do you think there's any chance, I'm assuming Landry Jones might want to come back if it's at the right price. Is there any chance you keep him around a la like a Byron Leftwich, a Charlie Batch kind of guy, be the veteran presence on the team, a guy who eventually becomes the backup to maybe Mason Rudolph, and you just toss Dobbs aside at the end of the day? What do you think goes on there? Because I thought this whole time they were kind of hoping Dobbs would become the backup to Rudolph someday, but maybe the whole Rudolph pick they didn't need him anymore.
I honestly don't know. How old is Landry Jones? Do we know that? Is he like 28 or 27?
I think he's 28. I'll look it up right now.
Yeah, because that's important to me, knowing his age to see how long he's actually going to stay around. I mean, if he's only 27, 28, like I think he is, I mean, it's possible. I'm not completely sure, though.
He is 29 years old.
29.
Hard to believe he's been around that long.
He still has a few years left in him.
Hard to believe he's been around that long, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. He's been around for quite a while. Each.
Yeah, he only played in one game his rookie year. He was 24, so that also wasn't doing him any favors either. But that's just something something to think about, and something that I hadn't really considered before. But something else to think about. All right, let's get to the real problem child of the Pittsburgh Steelers in this game, the defense. The offense handed 14 points to the Packers, but at the same time, the defense didn't do themselves any favors. You said if you still take those points off the board, it's still 37 points again. So what went wrong for the defense?
It really just wasn't a great day. Missed tackles were atrocious again. We wanted them to get down to about 9 or 10 in this game, down from 18, and instead it moved in the other direction. There were 19 in this game. Not all of them are on defense, but still, it's somewhere on special teams. It's such a problem. Luckily, none of the top 3 leaders in missed tackles for the Steelers for these 2 preseason games are starters. But Tyler Matakevich and Artie Burns are tied for the 4th most missed tackles on the team, but 2, and both could be starters. Burns definitely is. The fan favorite Adaney has taken the lead with 5 missed tackles so far this preseason, 4 of them being behind the line of scrimmage, and the other was on special teams, so he has a problem finishing almost like Tuitt does. Anyhow, there was one nasty missed tackle, and it just stands out. And that was Nat Burrs on the Packers' 82-yard touchdown. Jeez, was that horrible. I don't even know if you could really count it as a missed tackle. I do, because I don't know. He should have just dove, and he didn't. He just watched. Really, to me, it's a missed tackle. But not only did he miss the tackle, he looked lost and beyond slow, especially when you see Matthew Thomas racing over there and doing what he did on that play, almost getting to the receiver, but really got me thinking if I'd want Nat Burr out there in any scenario, as he played so beyond poorly. It was really rough to watch. Continuing on with the bad, on the Packers' second offensive play of the game, Davante Adams absolutely destroyed Cody Sensabaugh. And then projected starter Morgan Burnett took a really bad angle. Would have been only a 10-yard gain, turned into a 27-yard gain. I think we both got flashbacks of Mike Mitchell from that one with the bad pursuit angle and slow to react time. It's just, that was really bad. But honestly, though, to bring it all together, defensive backs just had a terrible day. I talked about Nat Burr, Cody Sensabaugh, and Burnett's bad plays, but Brian Allen got absolutely worked in this game. Then 2 touchdowns went over Terrell Edmonds. One wasn't his fault, but still. Artie Burns didn't look great out there. Deshaun Phillips is going to be cut. That's simple. And there just wasn't much to be happy about. I think the best thing I'd say about the defensive backs is that Cam Sutton looked good out there. And Edmonds played that one touchdown he gave to the best of his abilities, which at first I wasn't even happy with. I was mad because I thought he didn't locate the ball, which he really didn't, but like he played it the best he could, as John explained to me actually, because I was an angry little boy, and I texted John about it, and he explained it to me and I looked at it again. It got better in my mind, but other than that, I really hated their performance in this, the defensive backs. It wasn't good, and it's upsetting. It really is, but. Moving on to the linebackers, though, it wasn't all bad in this department. Bostic and Matakevich still have left me unimpressed. I'm really not going to be happy this entire season. This is going to be a talking point the entire season, I know it, of the inside linebackers. So I feel like they're going to be the part that's dragging this all the way down. They're going to be the worst part of the defense, even though today the defense, not today, the game against the Packers, the defensive backs were, but, I'm sorry, but besides Bostic and Matakevich, a pair of 2 inside linebackers did get my attention in this game, and that was LJ Ford and Matthew Thomas. Starting with Thomas, he didn't really do much stat-wise, but he was always in the area. One of the most impressive things from him in this game is that he beat Nat Burr to the defender on the 82-yard touchdown, and he came from the 20-yard line on the other side of the field. His speed and athleticism are absolutely insane for a linebacker. I really wish he showed some more as a linebacker, because he would be the perfect replacement for Shazier based on his athletic and speed abilities. It's just he hasn't shown enough in coverage and stuff like Shazier has. So I know he's not going to end up a starter. He's not even going to end up on the team more than likely. But like I just wish he showed a little bit more, because he would be the perfect replacement in terms of athletic ability. But then Fort was literally in every play. He didn't play great. He still played good, but he led the team in tackles and was just everywhere on several plays. He was really trying to earn his spot, and I respect it. Also, one more thing on the inside linebackers. Vince Williams definitely looked fine. He should have had a sack in this game. It was pretty close, but he looks like he should be fine in this season. No problems with him. As for the outside linebackers, they didn't really do so much in this game. Like I said, Adaney has been an athletic freak and causing several pressures. He nearly had a sack in this one, but he's just not finishing, which is unfortunate. same goes for Keon Adams. Adams has 5 pressures in so far this preseason, and looked pretty solid this game, but only got 1 tackle. As for the other outside linebackers, only Bud Dupree really added anything. He got a sack, but it was really not super impressive. The tackle played poorly on it, but he still showed his athleticism and speed on the play to beat the tackle off the edge. But after Chicolo, he recorded 2 tackles, but other than that, it was pretty quiet. And he wasn't really all over like Adams was. But as a whole, I'll say the defense played well against the run. The linebackers and defensive line were not letting rushers get anywhere. Not one of the Packers' several running backs averaged more than 3.2 yards a carry, and one averaged 0.6 yards per carry on 5 rushes. So overall, solid day in that regard. But really, as a whole, the defense just lacked, and that was mostly because of the defensive back. What do you think of the defense? What part held them down, or was it just a collective failure on all ends?
It was a collective failure on all ends. There were some bright spots, but first, I heard something on, I believe it was 105.9 The X out in Pittsburgh. There was a theory floated out there that the Steelers haven't used any of their dollar defense yet that we talked about for 2 reasons. 1, they don't want to show it to teams yet, and 2, I want you to tell me what you think of this. They're purposely throwing Matakevich, Bostic, they're throwing those guys out there in situations where they know they're going to have to cover, and they want to see how they're going to do anyways, just to get them either A, acclimated to it, or B, see if there's anything that they can do to get better at it. Or C, I heard another thing that they might be doing is they might be having them play the run first, so that if there's a pass or something, they have to really show that they actually have some athleticism, which in the case of Matakevich, he doesn't really have much. So I don't know. The idea was that they're doing that to make them work harder at something they're supposedly not very good at, and obviously it didn't have good results. So what do you think about that being a potential theory?
I like that. I like that a lot, actually, because, I mean, I was actually thinking that, but it kind of escaped my mind, that they're just hiding what they're actually going to do on defense. So during the regular season, they'll surprise some folks, at least in the beginning, with their dollar defense. And, I mean, if they're just training Matakevich and Bostic to get better, I mean, what's the problem with that? But still, something about it, because you can't hide the dollar defense for that long. You can't. It's once the regular season starts, and maybe like 4 games in, teams are going to start to realize what's going on. It's sort of like what happened with the Chiefs this past regular season. The Chiefs started out so far. I believe they went 6-0 or 5-0. 5-0 because the Steelers beat them week 6. They looked like one of the strong contenders, and then teams just started to break them down. I believe after they lost to the Steelers, they proceeded to lose 3 more right after that, then lost 4 in a row. And I think they ended up with a 5-4 record. Essentially, what I'm saying is once teams figure out what you're doing, it just sort of goes downhill from there. So it's like how much of a surprise can the dollar defense be after so many games? I feel like it's not really that effective because once teams find out, okay, this is how we beat it, let's prepare for them this way, we know how to expose this one matchup. Like, it's not a surprise anymore, and it's going to be great at first if they bring that as a surprise, but like, how much is it actually going to do once teams catch on to it and find what's wrong with it and how they could expose it? So that's what I think of it.
Well, here's how I think the Steelers could use the dollar defense to their advantage. Here's something interesting. The Patriots only used their base 3-4 defense 15% of the time last season. What if the Steelers, because basically nickel is the base defense now, and for most NFL teams, what if the dollar was used as the base defense, where you're using it more than 50% of the time? Correct me if I'm wrong, but the dollar defense, if it's used in a base where most teams will use nickel, so the extra defensive back, that's trying to discourage throwing the ball, right? And this is a passing league, correct?
Yeah.
The goal is to get teams to play away from their strength, i.e. throwing the football, and make them run the football, kind of make them get away from what they want to do, and the Steelers would just take their chances on trying to stop the run. I think that might be what they're trying to do, but maybe for whatever reason they don't want to show that right now.
I mean, I guess that sounds like the best thing to me.
The one problem is that's not going to work against Jacksonville. That's the opposite. That's a huge matchup problem for the Jaguars, but that's a problem for another day. All right. I guess back to the defense. Some other notes that I wrote down and checked out. Vince Williams, look, we both know this. He's at his best as a pass rusher up the middle. He had a couple of pressures, including one on Aaron Rodgers, where he almost brought him down. He is very good when he's blitzing the quarterback. Press coverage was a huge loser in this game. Guys like, what's his name? 35, what was his name? You mentioned him?
35.
He got beat for the long touchdown. What's his name?
Napper.
No, I mean the long touchdown in week 1. What's his name?
Oh no, Deshaun Phillips.
Deshaun Phillips. Yeah, that's right.
Sorry.
No, that's my bad. I didn't explain it. But Deshaun Phillips had a huge error in press coverage. Artie Burns had a couple bad plays in press coverage. The one play was Sensabaugh. Look, I know Morgan Burnett didn't have the best day. I feel like his game improved after this play, but this one play, I texted you straight up, he looks like Mike Mitchell out there, because that's what it felt like, and you were right, because Sensabaugh's poor press coverage allows a quick slant to go 10 yards, and then Devontae Adams just runs around Morgan Burnett like he's a pylon. And that was ugly to watch, but again, I felt like Burnett got better from that point on, but still, you don't want to give up those plays. The first defensive series in the red zone, I'm going to say good coverage once that big play to Burnett was completed, or that big play to Adams by Burnett was completed. The red zone coverage tightened up. Even on the touchdown, you watch that. I'm actually going to play it back for myself right now because I was thinking about it. Aaron Rodgers has plenty of time to throw the football on this play. I mean, geez, let's see. Oh, because I'm thinking about it, and I know Edmonds gets beat for this touchdown here, and that's not what you want, but at the same time, this is kind of a welcome to the NFL moment for him, because this is Jimmy Graham. This is one of the best tight ends in football. All right, so 3, 4. All right, so Rodgers has about 4 seconds to throw the football, and I know that it's tough to bring down Aaron Rodgers, but it's tough when you've got a guy like Jimmy Graham in the end zone, and you're a rookie trying to cover him. So I know Edmonds is going to take some heat for that, and he's got to learn how to try to handle that a little better. But that's a tough matchup right there. A good learning experience for him, and it's just another example that the pass rush isn't always going to get there. But I'm going to blame the pass rush mostly on that play for not being able to get to Rodgers or cause much pressure. One guy who did cause pressure early on and kind of often was kind of a surprise, and that was Daniel McCullers. He played with the ones in this game. He still needs to learn how to finish plays, but let's be honest, compared to where he's been for the first 4 years of his career, I never thought this was going to happen. And the fact that he was able to push the pocket for the last couple weeks several times, get a consistent rush, and he made waves in training camp. I don't know how much better he can get, but the fact that he got this good is really a good sign, don't you think?
Yeah, I think I totally think it's a good sign of shows improvement.
Absolutely. Edmonds kind of had an up and down day. Look, you talked about the touchdowns. The second one we already talked about. That's a play where in a year or two from now, when he's had some experience, you want to see him look back for the football. But for the most part, he did just about everything right on that play. He would have had an interception if his feet were in bounds, but Rodgers threw that ball out of the back of the end zone. He had a forced fumble and recovery on the same play on special teams. That was really nice. Look, I will say this. He did get beat for 2 touchdowns, but he was always around the football, and that at least is encouraging. You mentioned it. The rush defense was pretty good. I guess it really didn't matter because the pass defense was so bad, but it's good to see that at least one aspect of the defense was kind of good, and that leads me to believe that at least when it comes to rush defense, stopping the run, the inside linebackers weren't awful, and that was encouraging to see. I I saw some stunts on blitzes with Vince Williams and Bud Dupree to get them free, and that seemed to work pretty well. The QB containment is bad, though, and that's been bad for it burned the Steelers in the playoff game with Blake Bortles, and I remember hearing about how that was a point of emphasis and that they weren't going to let him get out of the pocket, and sure enough, he did several times, and he burned the Steelers badly, and I didn't see it again in this game. In one particular play, you know the one I'm talking about with Stephon Tuitt. We've seen this time and time again a lot last year where he gets in on the quarterback, he gets his hands near or even on the quarterback, he misses the tackle or the quarterback gets away, and in this instance, Hundley gets away, and it results in a touchdown. Just completely unacceptable, and I'm watching the play. He drives the dude back, corrals Hundley, and misses the tackle, and he breaks outside and runs in for a touchdown. Those plays are killer. Those are the ones that come back to haunt you, and that's something he's got to get better at, and I'm very concerned about him. The long pass interference play, I know with John Bostic, I know that it's tough for him to do that, but he's got to be able to get his head around a little bit, but at the same time, he's also covering Jimmy Graham, so I'll give him a bit of a break there. The Bud Dupree sack. The left tackle didn't really offer much resistance, but Dupree showed that fantastic athleticism and jump that he has. And you know what? That's good. I'm happy to see that. I want to see a little bit more of that, and it's probably not the sexiest sack, if you will, but it's something, and that's nice to see, at least at this early stage of the season. And look, what you were talking about, just the coverage was bad all game, especially by the DBs. Brian Allen was horrible. Cody Sensabaugh was bad. Morgan Burnett had a rough start. Artie Burns was really bad. I mean, I forgot his name again. Deshaun Phillips. He wasn't good either. So it was a rough game, let's be honest. Another bright spot, Javon Hargrave dominated the second team offensive line, although I guess you'd kind of expect that, but it's still good to see. I don't read a lot into McCullers starting this game, but it's nice to see that Hargrave isn't treating it as though it's something that's, I'm just playing with the twos, whatever, it's not a big deal. He got after it in this game. LJ Fort is pretty fast. He made a few big plays, missed a couple other plays. Malik Golden, I thought, had a pretty solid game for himself. Matthew Thomas, he's making this team, Austin. I know you said you weren't sure. He's making this team. I don't know how you can leave him off the team at this point. This guy was a priority undrafted free agent, and I'm looking at the rest of the linebackers. They usually keep 9 or 10, right?
Yeah.
Let's go over the locks to make the team, right? John Bostic, Vince Williams, T.J. Watt, and Bud Dupree. Those are the 4 starters as of right now. At backup, you have Anthony Chickalow. That's 5. L.J. Fort, 6. And then I think that's it as far as locks. I'm going to be honest. I don't know if Tyler Matakevich makes this team, but I think he will. You have him and Keon Adams. That makes 8. And then you're looking at 8 or 9. So you're looking at 1 or 2 of these 4 players. Farrington Huguenin, Matthew Thomas, Keith Kelsey, Ola Adeni, and Matt Galambos. And if I'm picking 1 or 2, I'm picking Thomas over all of those guys, right?
I think so. Even Ola hasn't shown the speed and ability that Matthew Thomas does.
Yeah, so I don't see how Thomas can't make the team if he's not healthy at this point. He looks like a speed demon out there, and again, Nat Bure is not going to get credited with a missed tackle there, Austin, because the tight end, I think it's a tight end there, it might have been a receiver, just ran the old do-si-do around him, and that was ugly to watch, and just not good overall. Just exemplified the entire day for the defense. So not a lot of good to take away. I know I tried to pinpoint some of the good things that happened, but at the end of the day, you give up 37 offensive points. You give up 37 offensive points. That's not good. All right, on to special teams. Chris Boswell had the day off. Kind of a mixed bag. We saw a few good things, but no one was as up and down as Jordan Berry was.
Oh, my gosh. His punting was so inconsistent. He needs to start punting consistently instead of punting 55 yards yards on one punt and then 30 on another. It was not a good day for, I mean, the stats look okay. I think he had an average of 48.5 yards per punt, but like when you punt a 55-yard boom and then you just punt a 31, like, that's not great. You want 40 every time. I'd rather 45 every time than a 55-yarder than a 30-yarder. The 31 was bad, but he also looked really lazy on one of the Packers kick returns, and I just wasn't a fan. He didn't want to like get involved, which almost baffled me. Maybe it's because it's preseason, because I remember it was last season against the Bears, and I can't remember the Bears' name, the player name, but he returned it, and him and Vance McDonald, or him and Jesse, it was one of the Steelers tight ends, now I can't even remember that, chased down the returner and stopped him from getting the touchdown by making him fumble the ball. But Ferry was there, but like in this game, he's like, nah, I don't want to tackle this guy. Like he like basically looks slow and just really not into it. Like, I mean, maybe it's just because it's preseason. Like one of our two punters don't get hurt. You're our starting punter, but like, I don't know, man. I was bothered by that. But other than Barry, someone's got to tell Henderson to just return it. He had space in this game, and he only returned it once. And it was a good return. It went for 27 yards. But I think he could have done more returns personally. He fair caught the ball too much, and I feel like, I don't know, I feel like the coaches should have been like, listen, like, we're trying to evaluate you. Just take it. Just take it. Like, he had so much space, I felt like, on some of the ones he fair caught. And for a guy who was like a really good returner in college, it kind of just, I was disappointed. I was disappointed. I've been waiting for him to return for like the past 2 weeks, and I've been waiting for him to return ever since he's been drafted. But regardless, speaking of special teams wide receivers, Marcus Tucker did good again. What he lacked in offense this game, he brought up in special teams, and he got 2 tackles. He's been a pretty solid special teams ace so far this preseason. But the biggest play came from Terrell Edmonds. He forced a fumble on Packers running back, Ty Montgomery, and it put the Steelers back.
We would like to apologize for a technical failure that crashed our recording app during the show. Due to the failure, we must conclude this episode early. Thank you for your patience.
You have been listening to Stronger Than Steel podcast. Thank you for joining us today, and don't forget to check out our website listed in the description below.